Hi everybody, it's Lace, and one of the most frequently asked questions I get as a crafter is, what's the best thing to level up on? And they're saying this from other games where making a wall shelf gains you 250 producer experience points, where making a large cabinet gains you 1,250 experience points. They're thinking of it that way. It doesn't work that way in Shroud of the Avatar. Basically, the first time you make something, you'll see a little uptick in your producer experience from it. Some of it may be sucked into your actual leveling, depending on if you have it turned on or off. Um, but all recipes are basically created equal. Um, After you've made 20 or so, I don't know the exact breaking point, you're going to really start to see huge diminishing returns. Now, diminishing returns is a term that's thrown around a lot, but basically it means the more you do something, the less reward you get from it. And that is true in the crafting. You'll see that pretty quickly in smelting, any of the refining, smelting, tanning, things like that. It's going to end up being just like 20 producer points per combine that you do. But guess what? We didn't even used to get that. You only used to get your producer XP from going out in the world and harvesting. So even just getting something back when you're crafting is a huge thing. So probably one of the most effective things you can do as an early on crafter is think about things that you can make on one table and use them somewhere else. Now the tanning table is a good example of this. On this you can make the trophies for the fish, the salmon, the trout, the bass. You make those from the fish you caught, either from fishing or buying from a fish market. Once you make the trophy, then you can go over to the carpentry table and mount them, provided you had gone over to the milling table and boards. And creating boards again is, the raw wood and scrap, or a very heavily intensive all raw wood. Please use your scrap. You don't want to you don't want to make raw wood. You don't want to make timbers and boards from 6 pieces of wood, because you'll just beat yourself in the head. Cut that down. Make sure you go and get scrap. And I have done some videos on getting scrap. Now you're going to say, well, I want to do production, not refining, but keep in mind the tanning table, getting that up, not only doing that to, make your leather and stuff. Once you get that to 72, and that's as of R34 currently, you're going to need to get it to 72 to make all the dyes you need. So if you're trying to make a bunch of dyes, or, be a clothier or whatever, and have dyes and stuff like that, you're going to need to get that tanning to 72. And doing the bass, salmon, and trout trophies would be, quote unquote, one of the ways I'd recommend it. You're probably going to get the tanning up there on its own just doing animal hides, especially if you're going to be a tailor. You're going to be refining tons and tons of animal hides. It's probably one of the cheapest components in the game currently that you can use to level up your tanning. But I would get my tanning up to at least 72 so that I can make all the different dyes. And again, that's only as of R34. There may be more dyes or something else coming in where you need a higher level and stuff like that. So that kind of covers the tanning and how it relates to other things. Moving along, let's talk about alchemy. Well, if I go and I hit K for skills, and I go to crafting, and I go to my alchemy, when I look at this here for enchanting, you need an alchemy proficiency of 40. So that's going to be your first target goal, is how do I get alchemy to 40 so I can start enchanting weapons. And this is going to, or weapons, armor, shields, cloth, tailoring, everything. So your basic goal on alchemy is get it to 40. What's my best way to get it to 40? Well, I'm going to tell you how I did it. It's not necessarily the best way, but it is the way that I did it. What I did was I made a bunch of health potions, because one, regardless, I didn't try to sell them. I just made them because, well, I probably might need them, especially as an early on adventurer. You can see it takes corpse wax, which you're going to get from skeletons, so you may end up getting that one kind of for free. And then garlic, which there's quite a bit of garlic in the world. It's a little hard to see because it's not as visible as a tree or a node for ore or something like that. But there is quite a bit of it in the world, and then you'll have to buy the empty flask. Now, this is probably if you're a little bit more cash flush way, but making these you can get to 40 pretty easily. So that'd be my suggestion. If you're out mining, which if you're out mining, you probably have enough money just to go ahead and just, you know, grind this up. Keep in mind that when I hit K for skills, your experience pool is going to affect how much gets sucked into actually, you know, leveling this up. And as of R34, they have turned it down. It was a ninja move. It wasn't in the patch notes. So people are like, hey, it used to suck in 16K at level blah blah blah, and now it's only sucking in 700. They've slowed down the leveling, which I think is good for the overall health of the game. I think we were leveling far too fast in persistence long before launch. I myself have 6 Grand Masters, and I think that's far too fast for the, you know, for the health of the game. So I don't disagree with that, even though some people are complaining. So it is going to take you a little bit more materials, you know, because if you used a certain set of materials and it was sucking in 16,000 points and now it's only sucking in 1,000 points, obviously you're going to have to make 16 times more of that. So now, guess what? The game has gotten even more material intensive. Hopefully, yeah, while they're balancing out how much XP goes into stuff, maybe we'll see a little bit more material balance that doesn't come from having to GM meticulous and swift to be able to absorb as many components as we're going to need to craft to get to GM in a production state. Let's talk about cotton. Isn't there that old song, let's talk about sex, baby? Yeah, don't sing. I know. I try to throw in these little stupid songs. But anyway, let's talk about cotton. You've got a bazillion cotton farmers right now because there's not really many other crops to grow. We've seen a huge drop in the price of cotton right now as of R34. And one of the things cotton's used for is going to the textile station. Now, there's 2 things that you can do with cotton. You can use the spools of cotton thread. So I'm just going to look at here at just basic cotton. Using basic cotton, you can make a spool of cotton from scraps, or you can make it with 4 or 1. And, you know, it depends on your fabric scrap and this. These are your basic components that makes a spool of thread. That's what makes everything. It's going to make your rugs. It's going to make all kinds of deco, and then it's going to make bolts of cloth, you know, different types of cloth, Carpathian, you know, fustian, whatever, depending on, you know, if you use the rares with them. So cotton right now is cheap, and maybe in R34 it's a good time to go ahead and buy up that cotton. It might drive prices up a little bit, but now's a good time, even if you're not sure you really want to work on tailoring or textiles, quote unquote, because textiles is what makes the rugs and stuff. This is one of the most undersold products I see in the world today. I think people just kind of go out and buy a little bit of cotton and then make a couple rugs or something, but I'm not seeing a good market for the rugs, and there's some really nice rugs. And we had this whole quote-unquote Ruggate thing, which I didn't even know was a thing until the dev said it in, like, I don't know if it was a post-mortem or a telethon or something. I just knew that all the rugs that I used to be able to buy off the vendors were gone, and now they're super overpriced. The ones that we can't make are super overpriced. It's like, oh, I really want those overpriced rugs gone from the deco vendors. Give me a damn recipe. Let me make my rugs. Okay? That's just my personal opinion. But anyway, going back to cotton, if you're going to be a tailor, you are going to spend a ton of time on the textiles machine. Now, there's no quote-unquote easy way or fast way to level it up. You're going to be spinning cotton for forever. Because you first of all got to take the raw cotton, then you got to make it into spools of thread, then you got to take the spools of thread and make it into bolts. Now, if you're taking the spools of thread and trying to make it into a one of the more quote-unquote robust ones, make sure to check out what their stats are. There's various third parties that have listed what these, you know, components would mean. Like if I was making some chest armor and I want to, you know, add a cotton strap to it, well, there's different types of cotton straps. And if I'm trying to make cloth armor, there's different types of cloth. I'm not going to get into all that. And that pretty much covers textiles. You're just going to be spending quite a bit. The last two things to cover is going to be smelting, obviously, and milling. And really, these are, these refining things. There's nothing best to do. You're going to be doing them. And again, as I've said or hinted at, locking them down around 40 to 60 right now seems to be good. The more skilled you get at the refining, the only benefit I've seen is a little bit faster time in refining. Um, when you, Basically, I just get a bunch of materials and I put on a TV show and I'm watching that and then clicking over every now and again to refine more and more. Right now you can only refine 20. I'd really like to see that upped because it's just terribly boring and slow, and it's a gated thing for your actual crafting, and that's very little experience. But that's how it is right now, and we've seen things tweak. So who knows? Maybe at some point refining will become more important and maybe lend something. Maybe when you're refining, you might get a chance to, I don't know, get an exceptional piece of wood, which lends to your exceptional chance at making an exceptional handle or something. I don't know. I really hope that if they do implement that, that they don't say, oh, you have to make it one at a time, because that's just ridiculous. I mean, they do that now with the armor. That if or the armor pieces and stuff. If you want to make 5 sets of leggings and you hit 5, none of them are going to come out exceptional. You have to sit there and hit that button one time, and then go, ooh, pray, will it be exceptional? Oh, it wasn't. Hit that button again. Ooh, pray, will it be? I don't know. That's just something I disagree with personally. But anyway, I think that kind of covers refining and how that's going to play into what's the best thing to craft, because obviously this is going to build your producer pool and help you find the things that are the best to craft. And so I think I'll wrap up here the quote-unquote FAQ of what's the best thing to craft that just kind of covered the refining, which is going to break you into part 2, which is coming up next, on what I think are the easiest or cheapest or bestest quote-unquote ways to grind the actual production stuff. So stay tuned for part 2. Take care, everybody. Happy hunting and be safe.